at the time. So they were on top of the outcrop as living things, and then he's got this stuff down there, and he's starting to say, aha. The thing that I really, and he's not unique here, but his focus is on so-called allied forms. We're going to see, I might as well tell you right now, that other theories of replacement, like Lyell's, were basically ecological theories of replacement. You know, Lyell would say you can't create a predator species unless you already have a prey species in place. And so he was thinking ecologically. I think Lyell was a brilliant ecologist, but he was actually an anti-evolutionist, and we'll see that in just a moment. So he's already seeing that there are things that seem to be unique. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, this is a toxoid. Another thing, we had it on display. I have this here because it's a fossil. It doesn't really figure into his thinking that much. It's about 2.5 feet long. It survived the London Blitz, this particular specimen. He bought it for 18 pence from some kids in a hacienda in Patagonia. And they had this thing up against a fence and had been throwing rocks at it and knocked all its teeth out. This fossil has had a checker. I just threw it in because it's a fossil. It's a great fossil, but it doesn't really figure in the next slide. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but let me just say about allied forms. I mean, Lamarck talked about them, but all the way back to Linnaeus. People had this concept of natural groups. They were not an evolutionary concept. But Darwin looked from the get-go. He was insistent. The things that attracted his attention were patterns of replacement in time as well as space of things that seemed to belong to the same natural group and that were endemic. So he knew that he was actually looking, I think it's like a controlled experiment. It doesn't make him a transmutationist, but I swear he must have been thinking sort of along these lines, because the patterns of replacements that interested him were not just this mollusk and that mollusk, it was these things that are unique to South America. And here he goes again. So I said, yeah, right there, that Cuvier and Lyell tend to say things would migrate in from elsewhere, and then Lyell also had this ecological notion. He got very excited about some small rodent bones that he found along with the larger fossil mammals, including ground sloths and so forth. I could perceive traces of 4 or 5 distinct animals, 2 of which certainly belong to the rodentia. One must have been allied to the agouti. Tarsi and metatarsi belong to an animal less than the present common inhabitant, Cavia patagonica. And then this little footnote, the agoutis are all proper to South America, and none have hitherto been found in a fossil state. He's very insistent that he's looking at things that are